Oh, just.
Makes it easier for us. Because again, it's that time. The city has this. Yeah.
Commissioner Nash, we may begin.
Welcome to the Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, March 21st, 2024. The time is 2:04 p.m. and we are in the Building and Safety Boardroom at 201 North Figueroa Street, 9th floor, Los Angeles, California. I am Vice President David Nash, and I will be chairing this meeting. The following commissioners are present: Commissioners Farmby, Lim, and Melendez. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items before we get started. This meeting is being recorded. Therefore, we ask that when addressing the commission, you speak close to the microphone and only one person at a time. Please state your name each time you speak. Members of the public who wish to only listen to the commission meeting and not provide public comment may call council phone at 213-621-2489 or 818-904-9450. This meeting is also being live streamed. Individuals who wish to watch this meeting may do so by visiting cannabis.lacity.gov and clicking the About menu item on the top. Under the About menu, click the Commission Meetings link. Scroll down to the bottom of the Commission Meetings page to find the live stream. We will be following the agenda order. Agendas are located on the table by the entrance door, along with speaker cards. Individuals who are physically here and wish to address the commission must fill out a speaker's card and specify which item or items you are going to speak on. Individuals can provide public comment or comments about a specific agenda item in person or virtually via the Zoom link provided on the agenda. If you are present at the meeting, please fill out a speaker card and turn it in to Irene or Josie. When I call your name, please come up to the podium and clearly state your name. If you are in the Zoom call, when the item you wish to speak on is called, press *9 to get on the speaker queue. The commission executive assistant will call out each speaker by the last 4 digits of their phone number to identify the caller. The caller will be prompted to unmute themselves by dialing *6. We will consider general public comment and single or multiple agenda items together. Therefore, speakers will have 1 minute for general public comment and 1 minute per item, with a maximum of 2 minutes for multiple items. In total, an individual speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes of public comment per meeting. We ask that speakers state whether they are providing general public comment and or which item or items they are speaking on before they begin to comment, so that staff can appropriately time them. If the speaker does not specify which items they are speaking on, 1 minute will be provided. PowerPoint presentations presented to the commission today will be posted online and made available to the public via DCR's website within 2 business days. Please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate so as to not disturb the proceedings. Please be respectful. Disruptions will not be tolerated. If you disrupt the proceedings, you will receive 2 warnings. If you continue the disruptive behavior, you will be asked to leave the meeting. We now open general public comment and single or multiple agenda items. Speakers can address the commission on non-agenda related items that are within the jurisdiction of the commission or provide public comment for items in today's agenda. If you are listening on live stream and have called to provide public comment via Zoom, please mute the live stream audio before you begin speaking to eliminate feedback. We will alternate between calling up individuals here at the meeting and those on the call. Please bear with us. Are there any speaker cards or callers?
Yes, there are speaker cards. Irene.
Thank you. Tyrone Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish to speak and make public comments for 1 minute and an agenda item. And also speak on agenda item number 2, because they go hand in hand for an additional 2 minutes for a total of 3 minutes.
So you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, it's Dr. Tyrone Freeman. I worked very hard for that degree. How you doing, Mr. Killian? I appreciate that. I'm here today on behalf of the California Minority Alliance, and I wanted to say to the commission, again, congratulations and welcome. We have a whole board of almost new commissioners. And one of the things that I've been able to send to the commission on behalf of the licensees and social equity applicants is a letter of comments. And I felt the letter to be important because the letter that I submitted to you all, and I'll comment on today very quickly, highlights the important elements of why social equity exists. Unlike many who claim, myself and many others, actually worked from the beginning on Proposition M to ensure its passage. And I think that what's fundamentally gotten lost is why we have social equity in Los Angeles. It's not a set aside, it's not affirmative action. It truly is an ultimate tool to use to help equate the wrongs that have been done in the communities of color in this city who were wronged by the wars on drugs. And I want to thank also and make comment too to Mr. Killian and Ms. Garakian, who I think are great leaders for this department who know this fight. And as you go on today on your agenda item and your discussion, you're going to be making decisions to amend the rules and procedures that govern your conduct and your body as commissioners. And as you do that, I felt it was very important to highlight the important parts of why social equity exists. Social equity exists to help equate the wrongs that were done on the war on drugs, as I mentioned. It was also presented and exists to help a fairness across the board, a fair playing field. It wasn't about, and it is not about licenses. It's not about a numerical point of licenses. And I think we've gotten lost in that. It is really about fairness. Social equity is about job placement for transitional workers. I look at the enforcement and I look at what the department's doing and what your directives are, and you're enforcing licensing elements. Cool, that's good. But we're not working on the elements that create employment for this city. We're not working on the elements to say, if you have a license in the city of Los Angeles, social equity, how many people within a 3-mile radius of transitional workers have you employed? How many people that have phase 2 licenses right now have signed a contract? It's great to see all the recommendations that you have before you, but what I don't see is how those who received their license in 2018 contractually committed to give resources to social equity have signed any of those. And yet the fundamental reason why social equity is failing in the city of Los Angeles is because of the lack of capital. And yet we created a mechanism that generated capital, and this commission and its body is not enforcing that mechanism that can address the #1 plague to the lack of success for social equity applicants. Phase 2 licensees, which are the majority of the licensees in this city, were to sign a contract with DCR that gave a monetary value on percentage, on square footage to the social equity fund that would allow for those to go forward. I thank you for the comments, but again, I brought back in the paper and in the comments of why this exists and why we have those issues. And before we add on to the House, because we're continuing.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
I think it's important to make sure that we fix the leaky roofs, right? And so let's fundamentally get back to that. I didn't see a contract in front of the commission today that would address the issues of one, the number.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. That's the only speaker card I have. Are there any callers?
If anyone wishes to provide public comment and you're connected through the Zoom meeting, please dial *9.
We'll give it a minute.
There are no callers on the queue.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for your comments. Both the general public comments agenda item and the single or multiple agenda item periods are now closed. Moving on to item 1. Commissioners, you should have an advanced calendar in front of you with our future meeting dates. Can you please take a look and let me know if there's any planned absences for any of the commissioners?
There's a Commissioner Lim on October 3. I will abstain. Not abstain up. I won't be here.
Thank you. Noted.
Any others?
Commissioner Farmby, I will be in attendance on April 4th.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I will be in attendance.
You
on the
will.
4th.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Melendez. I will not be here on September the 5th.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. We were sent the minutes of February 15, 2024 for review. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Commissioner Farmby, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
There's a Commissioner Lim, I second the motion.
This is Commissioner Melendez. I third the motion.
Ms. Treviso, please call the roll.
Commissioner Farmby, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Lim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Melendez, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice President Nash, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 4-0 and the motion passes.
Moving on to approval of proposed amendments to the Cannabis Regulation Commission rules and operating procedures. Does the department or city attorney have a summary of the proposed amendments?
Good afternoon, Commissioner Nash. My name is Emily Watt. I'm here from the City Attorney's Office. I think everyone has before them a copy of the proposed amendments, a red line version, and then the final revised draft that was posted on the agenda. I'm going to go over some of the changes that were made here. You'll see that there's quite a few, but most of them are just technical, changes that don't change the substance of the ROPs. Capitalization and punctuation, things of that nature. So there are a few that are substantive, and I'm going to highlight those for your all attention. And if you have any questions afterward, I'll be more happy to address those. So the very first change you'll notice was to, everyone got the ROPs open, is the addition of ROP 1.4. This is a newly added section just to expressly provide for the election of a chairman pro tem in the event that the commission president and the commission vice president are not present. It is somewhat duplicative of ROP number, I believe it was 2.2. However, it is more specific and would supersede those procedures, essentially calling for the commission executive assistant, Josie Treviso, or someone in her absence, calling the meeting to order to immediately conduct that vote for the election of the chairman pro tem. The second substantive change was to, if you flip through, it's to ROP 4.3. This concerns public submissions to the commission. And I'll note that there are 3 changes that were substantive. There's quite a few red lines. You'll see that a lot of it is indeed just technical or moving sentences around. 4.3A for regular submissions was procedurally revised to change the submission deadline from 4 p.m. on the Thursday before the CRC meeting to 2 p.m. on the exact same date. So that's just a 2-hour time difference. It also eliminates the number of copies that has to be provided to the CRC. The previous version required 8 copies that had to be delivered or mailed to the commission executive assistant. And now there's no such requirement at all. However, there is a new limitation there for 10 pages, not including, I think, exhibits. And that's just to make these matters more digestible for the commission. In the event that somebody submits something that's 300 pages, it would probably be very difficult for the commissioners to review all that material before the meeting. So the changes, I think, are largely procedural and shouldn't materially affect public participation in CRC meetings. The next change is to ROP 4.4 subdivision F as in Frank, which relates to the order of business. And hand in hand with that is 7.2 on public hearings. I'm grouping these together only because the changes here can be easily paired. In these two sections, we made changes to the ROPs to reflect two major changes that have already taken place in the LA Municipal Code. And so they actually require a revision so that you're in line with the city law. So basically, former LA Municipal Code 104.06 used to provide in its former sections subsections A and C, respectively, that CRC approval was required for storefront retailer activity and something called non-storefront retailer activity with a business premises of 30,000 square feet or larger. That changed. So City Council already approved an amendment to the municipal code. It's already in place now. That says in current municipal code section 104.06 subdivision B, that CRC approval is only required for annual licenses that involve storefront retailer activity or micro businesses with on-site sales. So basically, any license where there'd be storefront activity. And so those changes were made in ROP 4.4F and 7.2 to account for the recodification of the law and the substance of changes therein. I think the fourth change now we're talking about is under, again, it's going to be a pairing 4.4 G's and George and ROP 7.4. You'll notice that these sections were wholly deleted, and that was to reflect yet another amendment to the municipal code. So former LA Municipal Code section 104.14 used to provide that licensees could appeal certain types of matters that were heard initially by an administrative hearing officer to the commission. Those appeal rights have been eliminated. So under current law, these same types of matters are still appealable to that administrative hearing officer. It's just there's no secondary level of administrative review before the commission. Basically, after that person appeals and has their matter heard before administrative hearing officer, they're done. They've administratively exhausted their claim, and they can go to the Superior Court if they so choose. So that kind of makes it easier for them and less administrative burden for us. Then there's, I wanted to point out that in ROP 8.3, oh, I'm sorry, 8.4 for continuances. This second paragraph was deleted entirely, only because it contained, two things. It contained a Scrivener's error. It references something called LAMC 104.103, but that section doesn't actually exist. What does exist though is 104.10A3. And it was just, again, it was deleted just because it was redundant of the municipal code. It doesn't need to be restated. Then finally, there was a substantive change to ROP 11.1. The former 11.1 was eliminated, and that was done for two reasons. Number one, the former statement was just kind of like a general recitation of the law. So in that sense, somewhat superfluous because you don't really need to say that we're going to obey the law. We know that we have to, and the courts will hold us to that. And secondly, I felt like it could create a potential confusion with the CRC and the public as to the requirements of public participation and the limitations and requirements that are already set forth in ROP 6 for public comment and ROP number 7 for public hearings. And those provisions are more specifically applicable. So we got rid of this kind of general statement of the law to avoid that confusion. Are there any other questions that I could field from the commissioners here?
None of the commissioners have any comments or questions or concerns about the amendments? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. In that case, I'm going to make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the Commissioner's Rules and Operating Procedures as recommended by staff. Do I have a second?
There's a Commissioner Lim, and I second that.
Commissioner Nash, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Lim, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Melendez, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 4-0 and the motion passes.
Moving on to commission announcements and updates. Commissioners, are there any announcements or updates? Seeing none, moving on to future agenda requests. Commissioners, are there any future agenda requests? Moving on to item number 2, is there a report from the Executive Director, Michelle Grakian?
Yes. Assistant Executive Director Jason Klein to present this week's Director's Report. Next slide, please. Today I'll be covering various commercial cannabis activities that are licensed within the city, the cannabis-related taxes that have been collected since 2018, the public convenience and necessity process update, a social equity program update, and then the annual licensing meetings that licensing staff have been conducting. Next slide. In terms of our licensing update, we have over 1,400 active temporary approvals, which is the local equivalent to state provisional licenses. We just completed our 2024 renewal period, which ended on the last day of February. So we're completing the reconciliation of those records now. Currently, we have over 500 active social equity licenses, which represents about 1/3 of all active licenses within the city. Our goal is to increase that number, and we do have a number of pending applications for retail storefront, non-storefront delivery, and other non-retail activities. So hopefully as those applicants receive their licenses, you'll see a higher percentage of our licensees be associated with adopted social equity businesses. Next slide, please. Since 2018, the city has collected over $500 million in cannabis-related taxes. Our lowest year, of course, was the first year where we were transitioning folks from existing medical marijuana dispensaries to actual DCR licensees. We're averaging just over $100 million, as you can see on the screen. We did see a slight uptick in 2021, which is associated with the pandemic, and then folks that were looking to, different ways to ease some of the stress that was created by the pandemic. We're now back towards our more stabilized numbers of just over $100 million. Next slide, please. In total, 9 public convenience and necessity requests were transmitted to the Los Angeles City Council on January 19th of 2024. The council has 90 days to make a public convenience or necessity finding. If a finding is not made, that PCN request is denied by operation of law. To date, the council file number 24-0420-S8 is the only file that has been scheduled with committee. It moved out of the Plum Committee earlier this week, and it will move forward to City Council hopefully next month. Next slide, please. I would like to announce that Dr. Brown and the social equity team have an upcoming event. They've got various subject matter experts that will be presenting on business structures, marketing strategy, investment and business planning, and some other related topics that are important to social equity applicants that are looking to start cannabis businesses. This event will happen on Thursday, April 11th at 10 a.m. and that's at the Amundsen Senior Center at Expo Center. Parking is free. They will be providing food and refreshments, and it will be a multi-hour event. In addition, the social equity team is launching DCR's Equity Week, which will run from April 15th through April 19th. And that's going to be a celebration of our social equity entrepreneurs in advance of April 20th and 420 celebrations. Next slide, please. And then the last update is on our annual licensing process. We've actually formally issued our first determination for a non-retail business, and we are in the process of filing the notice of exemption. We do have a fairly aggressive plan to move our provisional licensees through the annual licensing process this year. Of note is the chart that's on the screen, which are the cases that will have to come before this committee. We have over 300 licensed retail storefront businesses that will need to make the transition from provisional licensure to annual licensure before the expiration of their state provisional license in 2025. You can see that this chart has changed since the last commission meeting. The third and fourth columns are different strategies that the director can implement that would allow for her to sprinkle in new businesses that don't have existing provisional licenses to help them qualify for their first state annual license so that they can begin to operate. The majority of our pipeline for retail storefront businesses at this point are social equity businesses. So it is important to help them get to an operational status as quickly as possible. So as those folks get their notices of completion, we are looking to fold them into the existing process as we transition the provisional licensees to hopefully get people before you as quickly as possible. We did complete our first community meeting last week. We had about 3 hours of public testimony. 2/3 of the testimony was in favor of the applicants that were present, and about 1/3 was opposed. That information will be summarized in the staff reports that come before this body when you start to consider those annual applications. And that concludes my update. Any questions?
This is Commissioner Melendez. Is there any way we can get a copy of the annual licensing slide?
Yes, sir. We can ask the commission team to send you the actual link to the website where all of the notices are posted, as well as the information about the community meetings and the notice for the Cannabis Regulation Commission.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Clean.
Thank you, commissioners.
Moving on to item number 3, a report from the Los Angeles Police Department. Is there a report?
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Detective Mike Boyles. I'm from the Cannabis Unit of the Los Angeles Police Department. I have a brief report for you. Just about the enforcement efforts on the unauthorized commercial cannabis activity. As LAPD, we have a aggressive enforcement strategy that we use with these unlicensed businesses. The first being a cease and desist letter, which we'll issue to everyone after a reasonable time. If they continue to stay open, we'll do a conjunction. The local narcotics unit will do a search warrant of that location. We'll also bring Department of Water and Power with us, and they will disconnect the power from the location. On top of that, we'll have the Los Angeles Fire Department representative and a building and safety representative come in, do whatever signage they can do to that location. Now, if this location continues to operate, they reopen after we do these efforts, we'll implement a padlock ordinance. And that is, we'll go in with basically a chain, we'll padlock the front door, and we'll board up all the windows so they cannot get back in. That typically works, not all the time. Next slide, please. This is our year-to-date stats for all the enforcement efforts for our unauthorized cannabis businesses. We've seized $239,000 worth of currency. There's been 27,000 pounds of cannabis seized. Our units have served 104 search warrants to date. There's 7 independent investigations that have been conducted. Typically, those investigations are if a location's burglarized, if it's an unauthorized place, it's burglarized, and we didn't initiate an investigation. That's why that's considered an investigation conducted. We've made 140 arrests, 21 felonies, and 119 misdemeanors. There's been 108 utility disconnects at these locations. The padlock and board ups right now are 0. That's because we had a little issue with communication between our units and DWP getting the license, or not DWP, the building and safety. We've rectified that. Our first padlock and board up is actually going to be tomorrow. We've issued 45 cease and desist letters And currently there's 60 unlicensed cannabis locations that we are aware of. And then finally, the firearms recovered at these locations are 15 handguns, 3 rifles, and 2 shotguns. And that's all I have. If you guys have any questions.
This Commissioner Lim, what is the average time period between the cease and desist letter and the padlock?
We call it a reasonable amount of time. Typically, it's about a week. We'll give them approximately a week to respond. And then if they continue to operate, then we'll go to the next step, which will be the search warrant or a utility disconnect, sometimes together, sometimes not.
Right. But then ultimately between the cease and desist to the padlock, what's the time period?
Between those two, it could be up to, because the padlock's the final stage, maybe a month would be the earliest between a cease and desist and a padlock. It'll be the cease and desist, and then we used to have them do 2 search warrants prior to a padlock, but now we just have them do that initial padlock and then we'll see if they open back up. But I would say the quickest we could do a cease and desist to a padlock would be approximately a month.
This is Commissioner Melendez. So you're saying like between the cease and desist and the padlock 30 days at the earliest,
Yes, sir.
what would be the longest should there be delays? Is that a 2-month window, a 3-month window?
It's hard to say because we have one that's probably on 3 or 4 months. And it's just because we had a problem getting a search warrant from building and safety to padlock it.
Mhm.
So that's been rectified. I would say average would be a month to 2 months longest. If we know this is a problem location and we have to get it shut down and we put a fire in that unit, it typically would be a month. But it just depends what other investigations of those units are doing, because some of our narcotics units have multiple, they're dealing with 10 unlicensed locations. So they're bouncing around to all of them. Some only have a couple.
Commissioner Farmby,
Sure.
with the utility disconnects and the cease and desist, is that your assessment as to that is working as to why there's 0 for the padlocks and the board ups?
No, I mean, they do work. I don't want to say no, they don't work. They're very effective. Typically we'll have in a calendar year about 10 padlock and board ups. And by now we would have had about 4 or 5, but we had a little problem getting those padlock search warrants with the judge. And it was just a timing thing between our narcotics units getting their search warrant to the building and safety, because building and safety have to write their own independent search warrant to get the approval for padlock and board up. So we had a timing issue. I've coordinated with both entities and that's been rectified. So typically right now we would have about 4 if those other 4 weren't, if they just didn't happen.
This is Commissioner Melendez. So I'm looking here and it says that in 2024, which we're 3 months into 2024, coming up on 4. So far this year, there's been 104 warrants served.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it may seem like a lot, but some of these locations, especially, might have the same location 2 or 3 times hit, and then they might do a padlock and board up. It's not an automatic. We leave it to each narcotics supervisor to judge whether they should implement the padlock or not. So sometimes they'll feel they're getting cooperation with a building manager or they're not getting cooperation with the owner. So we leave it up to them, but typically by the 2nd or 3rd time, we're pushing for the padlock. And a lot of these warrants also, it looks deceiving. A place will be open, let's say in central area, we'll have one that'll get hit once or twice, they'll leave, then they'll open up the Rampart. And then they'll hit it once or twice, and then they'll close and they'll move over to Southwest. We have a lot of whack-a-mole with some of these places because they'll pay cash for their building space. And once we get on their radar and we see them, then they'll pull and they'll go somewhere else. So that's a lot of the issues we're having with some of these locations.
And how do they come to light? How is there people in the neighborhood that report these, or is this through your investigations, how do these illegal dispensaries, how do they?
The Department of Cannabis Regulation has an outstanding complaint portal.
Mhm.
That's the way most of them get addressed. It'll be citizens will see them. We get a lot of the legitimate, the legal businesses will also see them and they'll report them in there. There's many ways. The complaint portal is one way. They can go, anybody can go to a police station and just say, hey, I think this place is selling illegal cannabis. And then it gets referred over to our narcotics unit and they'll start their independent investigation, or they could even call the station. So, but the complaint portal through DCR is probably our number one resource for getting these new complaints in.
Commissioner Farmby, in terms of the unlicensed cannabis location, the 60 that's indicated here is through the means in which you're describing now?
It's the 60 that, and that's why I said 60 that we know of.
That you know.
Somebody could, if somebody could go run around the city and find 10 or 15 more probably that we're not aware of yet, but as these are the ones that are reported to LAPD that we're aware of. And it really typically hovers in the 80s or 90s, but our units have been hitting them pretty hard. So we have them down to 60 right now. So hopefully that number will continue to decrease.
Thank you.
There's a Commissioner Lim. You were talking about putting pressure on the owners. Can you tell us how you put pressure on the owners to shut down these illegal dispensaries?
Typically, when we get the owners involved, sometimes they're a part of LLC and they're a little bit tricky to track down. Once we get the owners involved, it's typically we'll tell them they're going to get fined. There could be an abatement process possibly if they don't cooperate with us. And once they realize that they're building, they're the ones that are going to actually get in trouble with it, then that's when we get the cooperation and they'll help us with the eviction process or just kicking the people out. And when we do a padlock and board up, usually and I don't know every time, but usually the owner of the building is on board and they'll come with us and we'll have them physically pull everything out of the location before we padlock and board it up. And when that happens, they never come back.
This is Vice President Nash. Could you just tell us a little bit in general about what the department, like the type of resources that are devoted to this? Are there full-time people that this is all they do, or is it they do it when they can? Just a little bit of a description about that.
Yeah, we throughout the department, we have 21 narcotics units in each division. Plus, I work for Gang and Narcotics Division, which is like the major narcotics division. Excuse me. Each unit will, depending on how many cannabis locations they have in the area, will dedicate. We don't have any permanent cannabis units except for myself. I'm a support unit, so I coordinate with DCR and our narcotics units. There's an allotment of funding that's brought in that's used specifically for cannabis, and we have them balance regular investigations with using this extra funds. So every unit will spend a good amount of time on cannabis. Just there'll be some overtime paid for it, and then on top of that, they're mandated to do regular hours on it. But it depends what area you're talking about, because every part of the city has different narcotics problems. So some of the ones that are a little bit slower can focus more on cannabis. Some of them that have a lot of guns and major narcotic problems, they can't spend as much time on it. And then that's when they'll ask us to come in and help and stuff like that. But every unit in our city, I just know this guy, I coordinate with them. They do cannabis work. And it also depends how many cannabis locations are in their area, because we have some that'll have multiple cannabis locations, some won't have any. So it's just depends where you're at in the city.
Okay.
So this is
Commissioner Melendez, piggybacking on what Vice President Nash asked. So when we have our businesses, right, the cannabis businesses paying taxes, and we have a police force that has a division, let's say, for the cannabis, and basically asking if we have a physical number of, say, 20, 10 people here, 5 people there. We're just trying to figure out the size
Mhm.
of the actual, the amount of officers that are dedicated toward making sure that that all this illegal stuff is not affecting our people that are permitted, customers.
Yes, sir. And that's,
That's a tough, I'm sure.
it's very tough because I have a unit, I don't want to name units because I might get captains in trouble, but we have some units that have 1 or 2 narcotics personnel assigned.
Mhm.
We have other units that'll have 8 or 9 narcotics people assigned. And it hinges on the captain's direction on how bad the narcotics are in his division and the importance of it. So, but there are, like I'll say up in the valley, we have a lot of, there's not a ton of illegal businesses. There's a lot of illegal cultivations. And a lot of the divisions that are low on personnel, we'll have them band together. We'll have a couple, 2 or 3 divisions band together. So they're a 15-man squad and they'll go out and hit a few locations on occasion. So, I mean, and when I say on occasion, we got 104 search warrants served in 3 months. So there's a lot of activity that LAPD is doing with this right now.
This is Commissioner Nash or Vice President Nash again. This stat that I have in front of me says that there were 7 investigations conducted
Yes.
year to date, 2024.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is that correct?
Yes, and what those 7 investigations are is we can't, it's something that was an independent investigation. There was and typically what they are, I don't know all 7 of them, but typically there'll be a burglary at a cannabis location that we weren't aware of. And then, so there wasn't a search warrant, so we had to put that in a separate category. So those are like independent investigations that wasn't started through the complaint portal or anything. There was a burglary or some crime, and then we found out it was an illegal location, and then we started an investigation.
Gotcha. Do you know how many pending complaints there are about illegal cannabis distribution retailers that have not yet been investigated?
I do not. I don't have that number because typically that vetting process takes a little time because we'll get some complaints. They'll come in and I'll just make a hypothetical. They'll say maybe downstairs somebody's selling cannabis through a business. Before we will make it an actual official investigation, our narcotics unit will go out there and verify whether that's somebody's really selling narcotics there, if it's just somebody walking by smoking a joint. So they'll have to verify that there's actual illegal cannabis activity going on prior to the official investigation starting. So that time period, I don't know how long that takes. It depends how busy the narcotics unit is when they get the complaint to when they actually start the official investigation.
Is there a procedure whereby the department would report to the Department of Cannabis Regulation the results of the referrals of potential illegal sale retailers?
Yeah. We have the complaint portal and that all these investigations were I'm trying to think this out because we're actually revising it right now. The Department of Cannabis Regulation, we send them out stats, I think monthly on all of our activities. And then also they can look in the portal and see how those activities are currently going right now. But we're fine tuning that system as we speak.
Are they, when a illegal retailer is reported to the department, and then when you report back status on the various referrals,
Mhm.
do you identify them specifically, or is it just a number?
Just a number. Because when we started this, I mean, that I'm saying back in 2018, there were over 300 to 1,000, and like now they're down to 60. So there was, in the beginning, there were way too many. But with the complaint portal coming online with the revisions, DCR should be able to see individually if they want to, once we get that cleaned up, I think.
Any other questions?
Vice President Nassar, I was just going to add upon what LAPD was stating is when we receive the information, we actually have a layer on our public facing portal that identifies the locations where an enforcement action has been taken, whether it's a padlocking or a utility disconnect, because that would be a reason why a business premises address would not be eligible for commercial cannabis licensure. So that's being folded into our pre-application review at this time. So the work that LAPD is doing is very helpful to the department and our ability to administer, the municipal code.
Thank you.
One more question, Detective Mike. What's your last name again?
Boyles. Yeah, Boylls. It's a goofy spelling.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Detective Boyles. We really appreciate your coming here. Moving on to item number 4, report from Row Policy Media.
Good afternoon. My name is Brad Rowe, the president and founder of Row Policy Media. I'm working with a research group that we put together to analyze the unlicensed cannabis businesses in the city of Los Angeles, the efforts to mitigate the negative effects of them and to reduce the number of them in the city. I just want to thank the commission for their time, and of course our acting director Grekian and Chief Wiles, who is over here from the Compliance and Enforcement Division, that are coordinating the research. Next slide. Next slide. This is the research team. Got Amanda Ryman, who is the Chief Knowledge Officer from New Frontier, Ann Laudati, an expert on unlicensed cannabis operators, Antonio Frazier. Some of you may know him. He's a prominent testing and license owner, also works with the state on their cannabis commission, specifically on medical cannabis. Dr. Delara Uskup from UCLA. She's been running studies for the state of California, including a sociodemographic study on the cannabis licensed industry as well as consumers. Raphael Sindoni Sapochnik, who has done some seminal research on market dynamics of the unlicensed industry, specifically the difference in prices between unlicensed and licensed products. Rob Shalala from Cal State Long Beach and also from the Labor Center at UCLA, who is working with us to help understand unlicensed cannabis operators and consumers, and Madison Hernandez and Omar Nieto, who are working with our team. Next slide. Very good. So the research that we are underway with right now is to review the city's cannabis enforcement efforts through analysis of enforcement-related data. We are about to collect some of that data from LAPD. We're working on contracting right now. We will be reviewing and analyzing the literature and research on LAPD, on the city attorney and the city controller's office. This includes reports that have already been released from the city out to the public. We'll be looking at enforcement disparities. We'll be looking at different areas throughout the city. We are not collecting racial data, but we are looking at racial data studies that have already been commissioned for the city. We'll be providing recommendations for the development of an informed enforcement data dashboard to look at ways for the city to cooperate between different departments. And I have to say, so far, the city has been really great. We've talked to Department of Building and Safety, Fire, Office of Finance, LAPD, Officer Boyles and his offices will actually be helping us out with the collection and analysis of the data that we'll be looking at. Next slide, please. Great. So overall, we are going to be creating an inventory of best practices from other jurisdiction and experts. The goal is to minimize disparities and inequities in enforcement efforts. Basically, the headline is we're looking to figure out how cannabis enforcement, progressive enforcement going forward can both be effective and equitable. And as I mentioned, we'll be collecting data on that. Next slide. Okay, so task 1 is lessons learned. That includes some of the interviews that we're conducting with different departments within the city. I think we're doing 15 interviews within the city. We are talking to unlicensed operators. We're talking to unlicensed consumers, and we're talking to community stakeholders. And those include some advocacy organizations, some groups that are working on criminal justice reform, and folks within the industry as well. Task 2, best practices. We're also talking to different jurisdictions across the country and across the state. So we're talking to different mostly major metropolitan areas in the state of California and across the nation, including New York and Chicago and Portland and Seattle and Las Vegas, different places that are also dealing with unlicensed operators and issues. I will just flag the fact that I think California has a unique problem with unlicensed cannabis industry that has been operating mostly unregulated for 20 years before the passage of Prop 64. So it's a little more outsized here. And when we talk to people in other places, they're have a hard time understanding exactly the size of the monster that we've been dealing with here. Task 3, data analysis, just talked about that. That's the LAPD data. Task 4 is literature review. That's a review of the research that looks at what's already been written on an academic level, academic journals, what is out there for the analysis of unlicensed markets. Just a little background on myself. I teach cannabis policy at UCLA at the Luskin School of Public Affairs. I've been doing that for the last 4 years, teaching criminal justice and drug policy for the last 8 years, and just wrote the book, Cannabis Policy in the Age of Legalization for Cognella Publishing, which is the first textbook on the topic out there for undergraduates. So we're trying to get this information out to students as well. Task 5 is market analysis. That's Raphael Sapochnik and his team. I'm working with them as well. We're collecting data on the differences in prices between the unlicensed market here in Los Angeles and the licensed market to get a sense of that difference, that gap that we have to close in order to reduce the economic incentives for consumers to get out and purchase unlicensed products. Task 6 is interviews and workshops. So what we're going to be doing, and actually starting at the middle of next month, we're going to be putting together a preliminary report with our preliminary conclusions, and we're going to be sharing them with community stakeholders, with enforcement, with non-enforcement LA government folks as well, get some grassroots feedback and to integrate those pieces into our report, which we'll be then sharing and making that public. Tasks 7 and 8 are just finalizing, working with the city to get the report locked down and distributed, and closeout activities just include final analysis. Next slide. Great. So task 1, just a breakdown there. I think I mentioned everything in here. Yep, mentioned everything there. So yeah, we can go for the next slide. You can probably go through these fairly quickly. So state and national, one thing I did not mention is that we're looking at the primary regulatory bodies in these major metropolitan areas and the groups that they're most cooperative with. That's also what we're doing for task 1. So we are talking to these LA government groups. We want to get a sense of what the cooperative agencies are doing in the state of California and nationally with some of these cities. So we're talking to CDTFA, we're talking to Fish and Wildlife, we're talking to DCC, we're talking to any of the groups, the Department of Justice. We're talking to different groups that have the ability to help the city of Los Angeles deal with this problem and to marshal some resources as well. And we're trying to see who those groups are in other states as well. Next slide. Data, I think I hit that one pretty well. We can go to next slide. Okay, so the lit review, just wanted to break this out a little bit, and we heard from Detective Boyles about some of the work that they're doing. But it is interesting to see the tools that are out there, and of course some of the other jurisdictions that are using these tools and how effective they have been at mitigating the unlicensed market, including the cease and desist letters, the padlock ordinances, as well as utilizing the utility shutoffs. So we're also just trying to find other groups that have some authority and some power to get the attention of the people running these businesses. And as Detective Boyles mentioned, some of the whack-a-mole issues have been dealt with in other cities as well. Next slide. Okay, so these are the items that we're looking at for market analysis, partially because those are items that we can get a good sense of their prices and standardized across unlicensed and licensed market. 1 gram pre-rolls, 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce, 1 ounce of flour, vape cartridges, edibles, and we're looking at the modalities of storefront retailers as well as delivery. Next slide. 6, this is our review. Just wanted to let you guys know, these are going to be virtual workshops with key law enforcement agencies, virtual workshops with enforcement agencies, and virtual workshops with members of the community. And again, we're going to be taking that feedback and integrating it into the report. Next slide. And let's see here, test 7. Completing the analysis and integrating in the literature review with our novel findings from our interviews and our feedback sessions. Next slide. And that will be the closeout. And next slide. So this is the budget. This is what we've allocated for each of the different tasks. The total budget for the project is $348,000. As you can see, a good portion of that is for task 1, which has a lot of components in it. Task 2 as well, which is looking out nationally, and the data analysis piece are commanding some good portions on that. And task 7 and 8 at the end, which are closeout activities, are a little more slight. Basically, the project leads from each of the different areas are going to be doing some writing and some editing at that point. Next slide. And very good. Yeah, one of the areas that I just wanted to appeal to the commission here is if there is any areas in which you guys would like some feedback, where you would like us to direct some of our attention, or some groups that you would like us to communicate with. Our ears are open. We'd like to hear what you have to say, and would be excited to get feedback from you on any way that we can help, and any insights that we can provide. And also just wanted to let you know that we are talking to different departments in the city, and that is underway. I'm guessing that probably our primary data collection will be done in the next 2 months. Hopefully we can get that LAPD data moving pretty quickly, and they're working very hard on that. We're working with legal on that piece, and then we would be holding the feedback sessions with community stakeholders and with law enforcement and government non-law enforcement after that report has gone out. So we're looking at completing everything probably in the next 3-4 months. And next slide. Okay, yeah, that's it. Again, we just would like to hear from you if you have any priorities that aren't being addressed, or questions that you have. We're here for you. Basically, everyone on the research team are all educators. We're all researchers. So we're always looking to get a pulse for what's important to you guys. And obviously, this is what you guys do all the time. So looking forward to be of help to you. And I don't know if I have another slide, but there is. No, that's it. You can contact us there.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Melendez. I do. So you're doing your research and analysis based on the city of Los Angeles, correct?
City of Los Angeles only. That's correct.
City of Los Angeles, correct. Now, when you say that you're going across the board and you're going to other cities, say like Vegas or somewhere in Colorado or Washington, are you guys putting it together where you are going to have a comparison between other cities nationally as well?
Yeah, so basically we're reaching out to them. We're trying to get an inventory of, first of all, what's your problem? How have you dealt with it? What are the tools that you use? What are the authorizing statutes that you're using in your municipal code to get you there? And who's being cooperative? Are you working with fire? Are you working with police? Are you working with the Office of Finance? Is the state helpful? So just trying to get a sense of the way they're looking at it and how they're trying to address the issue.
A few more questions. So now, as a city, our retailers are selling a merchandise, basically, right? We're trying to compete with all the surrounding areas. Is there going to be any information that's going to be based on our product as we're producing it and selling it?
So the market studies that we're doing are going to evaluate sort of an apples to apples comparison on pricing as far as what consumers are seeing in our licensed, taxed, and regulated market versus the unlicensed market. So yes, on that front, we're also aware that retailers are not operating in a vacuum, and there are manufacturers and distributors and cultivators in the city and outside of the city, we're in LA County as well, that impact what's happening to our markets and who we're competing against. And quite frankly, other areas that aren't the unlicensed market, including hemp-derived products, the Delta 8s and hemp-derived, the synthetics and the Delta 9s that are out there right now, which you can get in smoke shops and gas stations are also competing for the dollar of our cannabis consumers.
And then one last question. I believe back before the legalization of cannabis, there used to be a lot of small batch growers that would grow small amounts of cannabis and then and they would have people distribute it. So my question is, are those people have they completely disappeared, or are they still on the fringe, and are they the people that are fueling the illegal cannabis market?
Yeah, I can't speak specifically to the amount or the presence or, lack thereof of the small batch growers. I know that's been a tough license area to survive in statewide. I'm part of the sociodemographic analysis for the state for a study we're doing for the DCC right now. So I can say that that's a tough area to deal in. But I think that the different growers and the different distributors and the different markets that we're dealing with right now are very complex. And you have your LA retailers are buying from other parts of the state. They're getting their testing done. And so some of these things are regional markets and some of them are local markets. Your storefront retailers, I mean, you're really talking about where's the competition within 3 miles at the most. When you're talking about delivery, that comes out to about 10 miles. If you're talking to your cultivators, you're talking to your manufacturers and your distributors, that's regional at a minimum and statewide. And obviously we're within a few years likely of having interstate commerce. So the whole industry is going to change. But for right now, we have the ability to protect our local storefronts and delivery folks probably a little bit better than we can with the folks that are doing non-retail.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's Commissioner Lim. What is the price disparity between licensed and unlicensed cannabis sale?
So we're working on that right now. That's something we're in the middle of doing the measurements of. The most recent study that came out of Berkeley, which was on, there was a difference between unlicensed and unlicensed flower, unlicensed delivery, and licensed and unlicensed storefronts. The disparities were 7% on the low end, and on the high end, closer to about 20%. You'll have a lot of retailers who will tell you that the disparity is much larger than that. So we'll see what our new numbers look like, but I think that the official numbers and the numbers that we hear anecdotally from folks who are competing against the unlicensed market, there's probably going to be a disparity there, but the truth is probably somewhere in between. But we'll see what we get on the numbers. We'll have something for you in a couple months.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Moving on to item 5, report from DCR on complaints and enforcement investigations. Is there a report?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Rocky Wiles, Compliance and Enforcement Chief for the Department of Cannabis Regulation. So item 5 is a report back. It was requested by Vice President Nash. Basically, you were asking about the department's enforcement efforts, how many open cases we had, how long it takes to conduct an investigation, et cetera. So on the agenda, I included the items that you wanted, and we really can't talk about enforcement without talking about our complaint portal. And as Detective Boyles gave us a little bit of a nice compliment there, but we're not done with the complaint portal. So I am going to talk about a little bit about the complaint portal. Just as far as the new features, monitoring and management of the complaint portal, and then I'll give you the numbers that we have as of yesterday in the complaint portal. As far as the enforcement program, I'll go over the progressive enforcement strategy, what our investigation process looks like, the resources that we have to resolve the violations, and then I'll give you the numbers of our open investigations and what we have pending. Next slide. So just talking first about the complaint portal. This is basically the workflow what happens to a complaint once it's submitted through the portal. And yes, we have done a lot of work. I have one part-time staff that has been 100% of her time dedicated to implementing, working with ITA and implementing all the enhancements and the new features that I had, requested for the past year and a half. Because the complaint portal was basically just a carbon copy of another complaint portal for the city. I think it was I don't know if it was sexual harassment or it was another portal. And so what they did is they, slapped cannabis on it, and that's what they gave us. So there was a lot of customization. There was a lot of, fields that we didn't need. And there was a lot of other things that we needed in order to have some good, reporting. So we've been working on that for about a year and a half. One of the things that we had a lot of complaints about was that when a complaint was submitted, there was, the folks that were submitting the complaint didn't know what happened to the complaint. So something as simple as that, right, was just adding an automated complaint, an automated email saying, we received your email, we're going to investigate it. That was one of the first things that we did. But from there, we started thinking, we need to be more transparent. So we've added, when you see the numbers on the top lane, in this workflow, those correspond to emails that the complainant will receive, depending on how we update the status on the portal. So when it first comes in, it's basically triaged and it goes into the DCR enforcement team. From there, we continue to triage the complaint, and we ask the question: is this cannabis related? If it is related to cannabis, then we continue to investigate or assess the complaint, and we figure out if it is an authorized location or not an authorized location. If it's not authorized, we go ahead and refer it to LAPD, and that's what Detective Boyles was talking about. So we do that check. And right away, if it's not within our in Estella, which is the program that we use to do all our licensing, then we refer it to LAPD. It goes to the actual division, where the complaint is located. So it will go to either Rampart or whichever division it belongs to. From that moment on, we don't see it anymore. It goes to LAPD because they conduct the investigation. They do have to, after they confirm if there is actual cannabis sales going on, they do have to come back to us so that we can sign a form. And that's the only other time that, and that's in the code. So we do have to verify that for them. And then they proceed with all the different actions that they can take that he talked about. You asked the question about, if we know what happens to that investigation. We're actually now moving into the next phase of the enhancements to the portal, which is sharing that information. So the information lives there. We just don't have 100% access to it yet. We have to talk to ITA and figure out what it is that they can share with us after the investigation is closed. But that is actually happening right now. We're trying to figure out, what steps we need to take to share that information. The other thing is, we have to make sure that the officers, detectives that are handling these cases input the information into the portal, right? Because if there's no information inputted, then we don't have the right reports. So, it'll take a little bit of, I don't know what the culture is. I don't know if some divisions are better than others, but that's something that, I'm going to have to verify and make sure that everybody's putting all the information in the portal. So after, if it is a location that is one of our locations, whether it's, they're have temporary approval or going through modifications, whatever it is, then it stays with us. And we, depending on the type of complaint, it will either be handled via a compliance inspection or we will actually do an investigation. This diagram, basically, as I mentioned before, just shows how we are interacting with the public. So if we close the complaint, and that's part of this presentation, if we, for whatever reason, for whatever status whatever status that we use to close the complainant will get, an email basically saying your complaint is closed due to this reason, or, whatever reason. Or we will also let them know that it was referred to LAPD and give them that information as well. If we decide to conduct an investigation, they will get an email saying, this is DCR is conducting an investigation. So the other feature that we added is if the person doesn't want to give us an email and want to just remain anonymous, we do give them a way to check back, which this is the new feature that weren't able to do this before. So they can, with the ID that they get, they can check back and just see the status, so they don't have to give us their email necessarily. They can just go ahead and on their own time, check the status of their complaint. So these are just some of the things that we have done to the complaint portal. Next slide. Oh, wait, no, go back. Oh, look, I had all these animations and we didn't use them. I was trying to show you all the different things that I was trying to remember what these things say, but there they are. Yeah.
You did a good job.
Yeah. All right. So complaint portal, the different statuses. These are the different statuses that we get in a report. So we'll have DCR enforcement. When we basically workflow it to DCR enforcement, it'll either be open. That means that nobody has touched it. Pending review. That means that we know that there may be violations, but we haven't started an investigation or under investigation. Or we can refer it to LAPD, right? If it's not an authorized location, or we close it. As we're getting complaints, if we can close it right away, then we do. For example, a lot of the times we get duplicate complaints. We have one person that he has submitted the same complaints like 30 times. And Monday morning, we get 16 or 20 of the same thing. And we have, for the life of, we're trying to tell him, we have your 16, we're going to handle it. So he keeps on loading the complaint portal, so those are all duplicates. We have to, we're getting credit for them, because we'll close them, but those are 16 cases that we close right away because we know they're duplicates. Or they're not within the city's jurisdiction, right? So they're outside of the boundaries. Or we can close it if there are no violations pursuant to the code sections that we have jurisdiction over. We get complaints about, fireworks or somebody smoking weed in their backyard. That's not cannabis. That's not commercial cannabis activity. So these are the reasons for closing a complaint that we have. There's 9 different statuses for closing a complaint. Next slide. And this is actually the number of complaints that we've closed. Now, when I give you guys numbers of the complaints, it's a running tally from 2018, from August 2018. And that's because, sometimes people ask for a certain period of time to give the numbers for, a certain period of time, how many complaints came in, how many were handled. It's kind of hard because we're working on complaints that have come in since 2018, 2020, 2021. So when I give you numbers, it's always from August 2018 to the present. So the numbers that that I concentrate on is what is under the DCR enforcement team. But these are the numbers for all the complaints that we've closed since the complaint portal was first turned on. So far we have 4,807 complaints that we have closed for those reasons. And I guess and you see, like the first one, they don't give us any information about the business or contact information, so we can't really do anything with those. If we don't have a lot of information and the complainant gives us a number or an email, we will call them or try to figure out what the complaint is if we need more information. But a lot of the times they don't even give us the address. You would be amazed at some of these complaints. We can't do anything with them. But for the most part, we're able to figure out the nature of the complaint. Next slide. So since 2018, we've received 6,883 complaints. Of those, we have referred 1,861 complaints to LAPD. We've closed 4,807, as you saw on the previous slide. And we have 215 complaints currently with the DCR enforcement team. And like I mentioned earlier, this includes open complaints, complaints pending review, and complaints under investigation. Next slide. This is one other feature in the complaint portal that I wanted to just share with you guys. We've created sort of a sub portal for other agencies so that when they submit, so for example, you know, if one of the officers sees that there's an illegal shop in their district, they can go in here and just say, I represent the state, and it goes into a separate bucket so that we can access things that come from other agencies, you know, in one place. And, you know, we can handle those faster, especially the ones from LAPD. So we have a, you know, a whole different page for other agencies to submit their complaints to us or referrals. Next slide. So about the progressive enforcement strategy that the department is currently developing and implementing. I've talked about this before, but so the first thing that we do is we do ask all operators, and this is part of our regulations, to submit an attestation of compliance with the rules and regs. And basically this regulation requires that the owner or the person in charge share the regulations with everybody that is employed, you know, that has a hand in the business, so that everybody knows the rules to operate. They sign the form, they send it to us, we have it on record. It is due within 30 days of the beginning of operations. So that's basically the first part of our strategy, is making sure that people know what the rules are, right? That's number one. Then we review and assess the complaint. An investigation may be conducting depending on the complaint, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. DCR may contact the operator to conduct a compliance inspection, and we may issue a notice to correct. The notice to correct doesn't have any penalty fees associated with it. But we do, you know, let them know what the deficiency is and how to correct it. Then from there, we may issue an NOV if the violations are not corrected within the time allotted by the notice to correct. The NOV is appealable to an administrative hearing officer. The notice to correct is not appealable because there's no fines associated with it. But the NOV does carry very, very heavy penalties. I think I've mentioned to this body before that a major violation is $47,000 per violation. A moderate is 21,000 and change, and a minor is 7,000. And our NOVs, when we do issue them, you know, it's several violations in one notice. So they can, you know, they can be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 in fines. So, you know, we really want to work with our operators by giving them the information, by issuing notices to correct, by, you know, going out to the site and educating them before we go the NOV route. But, you know, again, if we issue the NOV and we have no cooperation or no response, then we can move to either a suspension and eventually a revocation. Since we started the program, and you know, this program is fairly new. I mean, we just got fully staffed last year. And after that, we had to do all the training and try to establish the procedures and prioritize the work. You know, there's a lot of work that my team is doing right now. So, you know, it's taken a while to get here, but things are taking shape. Next slide. Wanted to just explain to you guys what, how we triage our complaint and how we determine whether we're going to do a compliance inspection or go, enforcement investigation. So it really depends on the severity of the alleged complaint. So for example, we have some complaints of allegations that somebody may have a delivery license, but they're actually conducting retail. That's not going to be a notice to correct. I mean, for that, if you're a licensed, if you're a licensed operator and you've signed the attestation, you know that you're not supposed to do that. So we are going to conduct an investigation, which involves, what canvassing the place, working with LAPD. But for those investigations, we don't give the folks the heads up. We just have to see what it is that they're doing. If it's, it also, so again, the severity is one criteria that we look at. We also look at the number of complaints received for one location. So even if they're minor complaints, if I'm getting complaints from different people, not the same person, I'm getting complaints from different people, and it just looks like, it's too many complaints, or the frequency of the complaints is high, then we might do an investigation. But if it's like one complaint, or two, or not one of these major complaints, then we'll just go ahead and contact the operator and we'll set up a compliance inspection. And then, we'll go through it and go through every single item and educate them. And if there are deficiencies, most of the time we can issue a notice to correct without penalties. And people have been, they've been very responsive. The month of January, we used to, we were setting up how we were going to go about conducting these inspections. In February was basically a lot of training for staff. I wasn't pushing them too hard. So starting this month, they're doing inspections 2, 3, or 3 times per week. So they're out there doing these compliance inspections, especially the ones that the commission's going to consider for annual licensing. Want to make sure that if there are complaints of those, that we've addressed them before they come to you. So again, the staff is very busy with that. The compliance inspection side basically is analysts that are being trained to do those inspections, whereas investigations, we use our special investigators. They have different kinds of training. They just have a different type of a skill set. And what we're doing is we're pairing a special investigator with an analyst when they do the compliance inspections, so that they can also learn from the special investigators. Because and my staff also went through training with LAPD just to learn how to de-escalate situations, body language, that kind of thing. Things that we take for granted are really important when you're doing these inspections. And before you ask, I have 2 special investigators and 3 analysts, 2 analysts with another senior admin who is also helping to do the compliance inspection. So not a lot of people, and they all are doing everything, and I have 1 person doing all the admin work, which is quite a bit. The resources, what I have circled there, you asked about what resources we have. The resources that we have to help an applicant, an operator comply, they can ask for an extension of time. We oftentimes drop a stipulated agreement with the help of our city attorneys. They can also appeal if they don't agree, right, with the order. But after any of these things are executed, then they go into compliance monitoring. So then the same staff that is doing the compliance inspections, investigations, admin work are also monitoring the compliance. Many times we have payment plans, or things are due at different times. So we have to make sure that we're checking back to make sure that they're submitting documents if they're missing, and that all these documents are getting copied or uploaded into the licensing module, so that Jason's folks can, see the documents that we have requested and that they submit. Next slide. So the numbers that, our workload is this 215, which obviously day to day changes. But as of yesterday, this is how many we had. Of those, we have 10 active investigations. These are things that we're actively working on, right? Whether it's, we're planning on canvassing the site or we're in the middle of writing a notice. These are active. Then we have 3 that we're currently monitoring. So these 3 were, operators where we issued a notice, and then, they came to the table and we negotiated and they agreed to some things. And so now they're in compliance, and it's just a matter of collecting the fines, the payments. Sometimes we do reduce some of the fines if they're really trying to comply. That's what that's our main goal, is to get compliance. It's not about, collecting fines. It's really about getting compliance. And if the fines is one way that I get their attention, then so be it. That's what I'm going to do, because otherwise it just doesn't seem like people really want to. And I'm not saying everybody, but some folks kind of need a little bit more of a, an invitation to come to the table, with these NOVs. And out of these 2012, we have another feature that we added to the complaint portal, which is bundling complaints. So those 212 complaints are actually 69 bundled cases. And what that means is multiple complaints for the same location. So in the complaint portal, we have like a primary complaint, and any subsequent complaint that has come in for that location, we basically bundle it with that, with one primary. So everything that we have for one location it's in one place, and we update the main case, and everything else will get updated automatically. This is, just to be efficient, to be able to get some good numbers when we report, and really to give staff, a little bit of hope that they don't have 212 cases. They have 69 cases. It helps, So like I said, it's not 212, it's like 69 right now. Because we do have a few that have like 20 or 30 complaints. Okay, and I think next slide. Okay. So that is the end of the presentation, and I can answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Farmby. The duplicates seems to be the highest category, right? In terms of, is there a distinction between folks who are making a duplicate complaint versus getting an update on a current complaint?
Well, an update. I don't know if, that would be, I don't know what's in their mind when they're submitting a new complaint. The only way that we classify it as duplicate is if it's exactly the same thing. It's not like, I want to get an update, because they would be able to get an update because the status is on the complaint portal. So it probably says under investigation. And once something is under investigation, there's not much we can share with them. In fact, that's all that I can share with them. If we're investigating a complaint, we can't say much more than that.
Commissioner Melendez. So when I'm looking at a lot of the reports that were generated basically from 2018, the majority of those reports were based on provisional licenses, right? Or am I correct? Is that most of the permits that were permitted for cannabis sale were all provisional at that point?
They were all temporary approvals, yeah.
Yes. And now in 2024, we're moving over to the annual.
We're starting, yes.
We're starting, right? So how does the NTCs and the NOVs affect the transition from the provisional to the annual?
Well, I mean, as far as our work, the
Mhm,
compliance and
yes.
enforcement team, it doesn't, I mean, if you're operating under a temporary approval, we're gonna treat you the same as if you're operating with an annual license and temporary approval, or if you're operating with an annual license and an operating permit.
But if you're provisional, right, and say you're problematic and you're get cited, let's say, for certain things. Now, as you're going through the process for your annual, does that affect
The
your
recommendation.
journey? Yeah.
Well, that would be up to the licensing manager. All I can tell you is that we're going after these complaints, and we will issue notices, and we will try to get them to comply. And that information will be given to the licensing team
Mhm.
for each location. So, they can take it into account, or they don't have to, because it's not in the code.
And since I'm looking at the complaints are about around 4,000 to date. How many started around 2018 and 2019, which was basically the beginning of the licensing? Was it the majority, or has the majority of those complaints happened later, like more recent?
I think that, they were all there, and I want to say at least 47 to 4,800 of them were there like 2020, because, I didn't have any staff, and the only way that we were able to close all those complaints was with the help of the licensing team. They worked overtime for 2 weeks before Christmas and sat them down and trained them, and they helped close all those complaints. So I want to say that the majority of the complaints were like prior to 2020, because after we did that, we haven't had that, we triage them and close them right away, or we route them right away. There's not 5,000 open complaints, which was basically what we had. We had an audit back in April of 2022, I want to say. And yeah, if you read that audit, you can see that there were, I think they quote like 7,000 complaints. But that was more a function or a product of the complaint portal, just, not, nobody had really taken the time to look at the statuses and how it was, counting complaints. It was just a mess. So it wasn't, even when they said it was 7,000, it wasn't really 7,000. But I think before 2020 is when all these complaints came in, like when we first started.
Yeah, it looks like you over time, because it
Yeah.
hasn't been that long, that things are slowly starting to find different methods to be able to
Right.
to deal with a lot of the issues that are out there. Thank you so much.
This is Vice President Nash. Got my question. Oh, I had a question about the notices of violations.
Mhm.
How are those fines determined? Who determines them?
They are in the regulations. So on regulation number 5, it has all the operating, the operating regulations. And at the end of each regulation, there's a category type on there. So some just say major, some say minor, and then under 104.19, which is where the fees are, it tells you what the amount for. We have the 3 categories: minor, major, minor, moderate, and major. So yeah, it just depends on the regulation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Moving on to item 6, report from DCR on the emblem placard program. Is there a report?
Yes, there is. Rocky Wiles again. Compliance and Enforcement Division Chief. So this is another report back. This was requested by President Mason. Basically, she just wanted an update on the emblem placard program and the number of placards issued by council district. So I don't know if everybody here is familiar with the emblem placard program. So just real quick, DCR paired up with the public health department, the county public health department. It's within their environmental protection branch. They basically are, and this is the same group of folks that performs the restaurant inspections, you know, and they give that letter grade. And the way this happens is there's an executed agreement between the county and the city where they conduct the inspections on our behalf because we don't have, you know, the skill sets that they have to conduct these health inspections. So that was adopted and incorporated into the LAMC. So now we have, you know, the health department that conducts these inspections. Our regulations do require that every operator obtain a health department permit. Retailers, in addition to the health department permit, are required to also be issued an emblem placard so that it can be displayed on the business. And this emblem placard basically means that that location has obtained all the permits and COs from the city and in a license from DCR and from the state. So it's supposed to give any customers, you know, the assurance and confidence that this place is good to go for any and all permits and clearances for the city. But and this is basically what they do. They verify and it's just a few items that they verify when they were doing the site evaluation, which I'll talk about, site evaluation program. They basically check, you know, the general sanitation, equipment standards, the water supply, safety, produce safety, and the employee health and hygiene. We did conduct a webinar with them. Gosh, this was before the pandemic. And we've also conducted other webinars alongside the health department to educate our operators about this program. Initially, the health department, to help operators, they created a site evaluation process, which was it's separate. It was a more efficient way of getting the health department permit, because instead of requiring the applicant to submit plans, they basically had to call the health department and schedule a site evaluation. So there was no plan submittal. They would, you know, schedule them to come in, and then the health department just goes through their list. And if everything checks out, they're able to just pay for the health department fee and get their permit. This was the site evaluation process. Because, I mean, it was voluntary, you know, when we rolled it out, we said, you know, it's voluntary. So not a lot of people took advantage of it. And so now, as of March 31, they're basically going to eliminate that process and just go back to, you know, the process that they've always had, which is you have to submit plans. It is more expensive. It will take longer, but basically they, you know, they got tired of waiting around for people to call and schedule these inspections. The problem with that, next slide. The problem with that, and the reason why I think many people didn't call is because before the health department is able to schedule an inspection and issue a permit, they have to make sure through us that that location has obtained all the permits and certificates of occupancy that they need to operate the business. Unfortunately, because, you know, we had so many folks out there with temporary approval operating, some of them may not have had or may not have the correct type of permit or COO, so they have to go to building and safety. And, you know, whether it's because it's expensive or they don't understand the process, or they don't want to deal with the city departments. A lot of folks just never went through that process. And so when they now try to go to the health department to, you know, get this permit, the health department can't schedule them because, you know, once they get them into their process and they pay the fees, they are required to issue that health department permit. And so before they even take any applications in, they always confirm with us to make sure that, you know, folks have all the permits and COs. I'm currently working with Building and Safety to come up with some guidelines to help our operators understand the process. We've met with them 2 or 3 times so that we can give a little more guidance to operators. Some of the issues are that Building and Safety has historically not want to mention the word cannabis on their permits, which makes it difficult for somebody to come and tell the plan checker, we're doing this activity or that activity because it's all cannabis related. So that's one of the things that I'm working with Building and Safety on is coming up with equivalent uses, that are similar to what we do so that the plan checker understands how to check the plans. I've also offered to take them on a couple of tours, so that they can see and I think they're considering it. So I'm happy about that. So that they can see how these businesses operate, and take some of that stigma, some of the stink out of the people's perceptions. So hopefully that will help get folks into the pipeline to get their permits. I understand, I mean, it is difficult, especially for the non-retailers, right? You have the cultivators that may need sprinklers, they might need fire separation walls because, what they're doing, their business operation requires all that. And it is expensive, and then once you go to Building and Safety, they'll have to send you to other agencies who themselves have, their own processes and fees. It's not just a clearance, you go to fire department, they're going to want plans and fees, you go to BOE, Bureau of Engineering, they might want their fees or sewer charges. So it is expensive and it is a process, but there's no way around it, you have to get your COOs and your permits, but hopefully what we're doing in the next few weeks will help. Next slide. So on our website, I don't even talk about the other slide, but it's okay. It's just cooperating with Building and Safety to help us. It's okay. So on our website, we actually have a list of the folks that are able to, for retail only, or the folks that are able to call the health department to schedule the site evaluation. It's only, it sunsets on March 31st. So after that, folks are not going to be able to do the site evaluation process. They're going to have to submit plans to get their health department permit. But out of what we did is to help our retailers, my staff went ahead and did the research on every single retail facility to get the permits from Building and Safety's database. And we paired that up with the business premises diagram that we got from the operator. We also have a form that Building and Safety would then make a determination, yes, this is good for retail, or no, it's not good for retail. So we do the research, we put it all together, we slap on the form, we send it to Building and Safety. Building and Safety then says yes or no. So we were able to do that for all the retailers. Unfortunately, out of like close to 300 of them, we were able to say yes to approximately 120 something or 130 something, and almost the same amount, the existing certificates of occupancy or permits would not allow them. Building and Safety said, no, this is, they have to submit plans. But out of the ones that we did have confirmation that, they were good to go, only 56 actually called and got their placards and scheduled. So at least, another 56 or 60 locations are out there that are able to call and take advantage of the site evaluation process. And they haven't been. So that's where we are on that. Like I said, President Mason wanted to know the breakdown of where these emblems are. So that's your 56 placards in the city by district. I guess the most that would be, I guess, CD 11 and CD 5. Okay. Any questions?
Commissioner Melendez. So when you say there's an emblem or a placard, is that what you would see when you'd go into a restaurant, like an A, B, C, or is that a rating or is it just an actual?
It's kind of like that, but there is no grade. It's just, I'm just trying to see if I can have, can you go back a couple? Oh, there, you see at the top there of the screen on the top left hand corner?
Mhm.
That is what they will post.
Okay.
And there's that QR code. When you go to the QR code, it actually takes you to the inspection report that the health department did. So, yeah. And the health department, once they issue the emblem, they'll send us a picture and the inspection report too. So we have it on file. Yeah, so that's what you see. We're giving them so many things to post. I mean, they're not gonna have any room to see through the window. We have this and we have our license and stickers and all kinds of things that they have to post.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And this meeting is now adjourned. The time is 3:50.